Everyone, this is my watch list for Tuesday, August 4th. All right, so what's happening? SPY is testing previous all-time high from June 2nd. So it's been 2 months since we've been at this level, but now we are back at it, and this is going to be a big test for the market, guys. 760, it's huge, right? Previous all-time high, this is where we failed. We dropped $40 from there. So the question now is, do we reclaim 760, okay? Or do we break above and fail back below? Okay, so that's what I'll be watching for today. How do we react to this 760? If we get a reclaim and push above, we can look for longs. Or if we get a breakout and failure back below, we can look for shorts. Simple as that, okay? This though, I do believe that for right now, we are in a temporary upside. I do think it's still temporary based on some of the factors that I see on my own. I can't say too much, but there's definitely some temporary upside, but I don't think it'll last very long, okay? QQQ, 696 reclaimed. Remember I talked about this yesterday. 696 was our bull bear pivot. We reclaimed 696 and ripped, and now we are pushing back into my other big supply at 710, right? So 710 is my next big level on the Qs. If we reclaim 710, this can go all the way back into the mid 720s. 725 is my next level after that. If we fail 710, then this can come back to 696 where we can look for longs, okay? Since we broke above 696, we can now look for longs at 696. But let's see how we react to that 710 today, because that's a big level, okay? Apple, one of the weakest names in the market, right? At least for betas, okay? It closed red. Everything else, look at all this. AMD, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Netflix, everything closed green. Apple closed red, okay? We can look for shorts on this. I was looking for that 320 pop and fade. We're not going to get it, right? We're just not going to get it. It's too weak, okay? So what can we look for now? The breakdown low. So after earnings, the low was 300. All right, very simple. We can look for a break and hold below 300 for shorts, and that should give us a nice push into like 290. What is this? 293, 294, okay? So let's watch that on Apple. AMD has earnings today after hours, all right? We can't trade this. But I will tell you that 520 is big, okay, and 460 is big. So after earnings, we're either going to get a nice push back into the top of this range, 560, 570, or we're going to get a move below 460 back into 420. But we just don't know what's going to happen with earnings today, okay? Amazon broke previous all-time high. Right? This is the previous all-time high from May. Yesterday we broke above. It would have been really hard to catch because it was literally one candle. Right, look at this on Amazon. That break above previous all-time high, we went from 278 to 285 in one candle. It's a $7 candle. Okay, so that would have been really hard to catch off the open. And then after that, it just chopped for the rest of the day. Okay, and now Amazon is actually gapping down 2.5%, and we are right back below that previous all-time high. So what can we watch for today? Maybe if we reclaim, right? If we reclaim the previous all-time high, let's say we get back above 280. Then we can look for longs again on Amazon, okay? Let's see what happens on that. Google just failed that supply. 376 to 380 is supply on Google. Not watching anything specifically on this. Meta, I talked about the 580 yesterday. Remember I said 580 is big. If we reclaim, we can go back to 600. 580 reclaimed, it went to 597, 598, okay? Now we're back at that big demand. Let's see if 580 holds, it's a long. If it fails back below, it's a short. Netflix is still just ranging between my demand and supply. 70.50 is big, and then I also have a big level at 75, which it has not broken out of yet. So we'll see what happens on this. This is honestly, if we break this trend, this is gonna sell pretty heavy. Okay, Netflix has kind of been in a downtrend since. We'll look at the daily chart here in a second, but it's been a downtrend for a while. And if we break this trend, I think it's going to sell, guys. I think it's going to sell. Look at this. Netflix has been in a downtrend since July of last year. So 1 year we've been in a downtrend on Netflix. And, it doesn't, if we hold the trend, then sure, it's going to, it can continue its upside. But I'm not seeing a lot of strength yet. We're gapping down again today. It's got to hold this trend. That's it. Simple as that. This trend has to hold. If it doesn't, we're gonna sell. We're gonna sell probably into 60 or lower. Okay, 71, 70. This is the area, big area that has to hold. So we'll see what happens on this Netflix. But I'm not convinced on longs unless we reclaim 75. We reclaim 75, okay, yeah, it's probably going to go back to 90. So let's see what happens there. PLTR ripped after earnings, up 14%. They crushed. They beat on both EPS and on revenue, okay, double beat. And they actually increased their guidance as well. So very, very strong quarter for Palantir. I remember at 200, I was saying, yeah, you know, this probably goes back to 100. Back here, I was shorting Palantir at 200. I shorted again here in the 195s. I said, this probably goes back to 100, right? And it did. I mean, it didn't tap exactly 100. It went to 106. But it made the move that I was looking for, right? It dropped 50% from highs. And I said, this is not a bad company. Even while I was shorting it at the top, I was shorting it up here. I said, this is not a bad company. It's just overstretched based on its current valuation, okay? So it's starting to get a reality check. I mean, it already had the reality check when it dropped 50%, but it's still crushing earnings, all right? So this is not a bad long-term player, okay? We just have to see, can it maintain current levels, current price levels with the valuation standards that it's set for itself, right? And you can see it is doing that by increasing EPS, increasing revenue, increasing guidance, right? This is a strong name. So what can you do? You can look for bounces on it, right? Big rip yesterday. We can look for a bounce at the top of this range. Remember this 136 level I had talked about? You can look for a bounce at 136 on Palantir today, all right? Now, obviously, it just reported earnings, so it's going to be pretty volatile, and the contracts are going to be a little wonky, but we can still look for longs off that 136. Nvidia reclaimed my 206 level at a level there from back here. We reclaimed it yesterday. Rav caught a nice trade, this 198 reclaim. This was actually the best trade yesterday. Everything else was kind of just scalps, but 198 reclaim. Rav nailed this back in a 208. And today it's gapping up as well. 214 is my big supply. We'll see what happens once it gets to 214. Either failure or break above. If we break above, we can look for longs back in a 220. If we fail, obviously, we can look for shorts. 206 is also my level to the upside that we have to hold. Okay, so if 206 holds, can look for longs. If it fails, you know, this probably sells back in at 202 and then 198. We'll see what happens. Tesla, I am actually watching this reject still. So I talked about this last week, 337. This was the big breakdown level after earnings. So, you know, Tesla did not beat earnings. They fell 38% on EPS. They only beat on revenue, but EPS was a bad miss. And we have yet to test this. This is a big daily level, this 337, okay? So if we get that today, I actually will be looking for shorts on Tesla. This is a reject level I have that we have yet to test. So I will actually be watching this 337 level for shorts on Tesla, all right? So that's my watch for today. Let's see what happens. We do have some good setups in here as long as market gives us direction. We do have JOLTS job openings data at 10 o'clock. So I expect some volatility from that. Just be careful being in a trade at 10 a.m. Exactly. Okay? I'll see you guys on live.